Hello and welcome back to Live Now with Veenu and Chuck. I'm your host, Veenu Keller, along with my brother from another mother co-host, Chuck Hogan. We want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and her network on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on your respective app stores and iOS devices. While you download, please make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. I tell you what, Chuck, that is a tongue twister to this today for me. I was like, am I even saying these words right? Anyway.
And I was just saying, I am so glad that you are bringing us in, Veenu, and it's not me today. So thank you, my sister. I appreciate you. Nothing but love.
So Chuck, we have something exciting to talk about today, right? Chuck and I, we always go back and forth because we want to make sure that whatever we're going to talk about is going to serve our listeners, and we're happy to say that our listeners are growing across the world. So if you are listening to us, thank you for tuning in every Monday. And please remember that on social media, you can leave comments, you can ask questions, because we are here to serve you, our listeners. So today we decided that we wanted to talk about healthy habits. How do we turn our unhealthy habits into healthy habits, if you would, looking at some of the choices that we make in life. And it was so funny because you and I were just talking about our young adult kids and some of the choices that they're making and how some things turn into a habit that's not so healthy. And yet what's the drive behind it? Or the lack of, like the lack of purpose, the lack of that pull, like you were talking about just now, And so we really wanted to talk about it because Chuck, today, actually, I was just coaching one of my 14-year-old clients, and she says, I didn't go to school today. And she says, it was kind of good because the absences were not counted, but I live she lives in Texas, near you, actually, near Dallas. And I said, so what's the downfall of that? I mean, I would love to not have to gone to school and my absence be excused for no reason. She says, there's been so many shootings around the area. She says 5 minutes from our house, there's a fair, and they thought it was a shooting, but it was somebody that was just getting beaten up, and it was false shooting. Then there were 3 schools in her area that there were, a kid was saying that we were going to shoot up the schools, and he was arrested. And then the Allen Mall area, there was shootings there. It's like, there's so much going around. And she says, so last night my parents were like, well, they caught the guy, so you're going to school. And she's like, hello, like, what about me? And then her parents were like, okay, fine, you don't have to go. And she says, but Veenu, I stayed awake last night thinking to myself, what's this world we're living in? And it made me sad. It's like, and she started to cry, and she says, it just makes me sad because she goes, I'm only 14, and what's going to be left of this world? And so I asked her, I said, if you could do a part in the world, what habits could you create today to bring a better tomorrow for yourself? And she's like, that's interesting. She says, most people are so concerned about, she's like, we're going and cleaning up the beaches. For what? Everyone just keeps littering it. What if everybody just picked up one piece of trash a day in the entire world instead of leaving a piece of trash, picking up a piece of trash? She says, that would be a great habit. I said, that would be a great habit. So I just think it's interesting, that we picked this topic, and even these kids that I'm coaching are starting to see this world unravel before their eyes. They're going into a world of uncertainty. And compared to like when you and I were growing up, right? Like the only thing I was worried about at school was, is there going to be a pop quiz today? Wait, did I get my homework done? Did I prepare for this test? That's what I was worried about. Or I was bullied, so I would maybe have been afraid of the bully. But other than that, I wasn't afraid of my life.
Yeah, it's an interesting commentary because it was in the past. You had the kids who were popular. You had the kids, and maybe you don't know, because we both went through a bullying phase where, because of the color of our skin and our ethnicity, that there was a lack of acceptance. More so than anything else, though, and I'll say, at least in my particular situation, it was more a lack of awareness of self. And it's interesting because it really does start with that internal relationship. And what I'm realizing more and more, that irrespective of what someone's outward appearance may look like, their gender, their race, whatever the case might be, that there's a lot of self-speculation going on. There's a lot of self-judgment going on. There's a lot of, when we talk about keeping up with the Joneses, now you're trying to keep up with, all the chins in the Chinese phone book. Because if you're on TikTok, or if you're on Facebook, or for the old people, and I raise my hand and I'm raising my feet as well, for Instagram, for Twitter, I say it's interesting. And in fact, we even have the purists, and I only do social media on LinkedIn because it's all business. And it's like, okay. But that's an identity. So let's be very clear what we're speaking about today. And when our ID is no longer our identification, but our interior design. And so I'm going to use some abbreviations today, because it really is about how do you create you? And we have a dear friend named Marlon Smith, and he came up with this concept of repo. And this is how you create a habit. Now, this is going to sound corny, y'all, and we're going to put it out there anyway, because we need to change the narrative around how we process and create these things called rituals. So Veenu, you said something that's, and why am I not surprised, remarkably powerful. And that is that it is about repetition. And yet it comes from this bigger purpose of why. Why work out? Why eat healthy? Why get up? Why go to school? There's so many exterior factors that are going on right now. And it's really for only two reasons: pain and pleasure. So if you have so much fear that it's debilitating, and you're concerned, real or perceived, it doesn't make a difference, because the brain doesn't know between the two.
Correct.
Then you're going to have a reaction. And this is where IQ and EQ don't always line up, because you're like, oh, they found the guy, they arrested the guy. Actually, he was dispatched and has transitioned. He's no longer in this sphere. But then it's like, ooh, was he part of a conspiracy? Ooh, are there other people who are going to do the same thing? Ooh, and then it's like your mind can run rampant, and now agoraphobia sets in, because now what you're setting in as far as a habit is I don't want to engage. I don't want to be in peril. And it's like, okay, but hear the language. I don't want to. But what do you need to do? This is so different, because what we need to do is what we get to do. It's a decision. We get to decide. We get to match this mindset, which is based on that heart set. It comes down to, do you feel worthy? Do you feel that you're able to go to the next level at this point? And that's interesting. We have a French connection.
I was going to say,
yes.
I don't speak French, so sorry about that.
Oh, thank you, though. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. So part of this is that when we start to look at what creates a habit, there's several facets to it. But I would like to say something that you use really powerful and important. And that is, when you get triggered, we need to understand that that's not your full reality. That is how we're reacting to a situation. And the reason why is we don't have all the facts. And I'm sorry to your client at 14 years old, because sweetie, I'm going to tell you something. You're never going to have all the answers. You're never going to have all the facts. What you really have is how you show up in that scenario. And we're going to use the same formula that we've used many times before. How am I feeling right now? What does this mean to me right now? And how do I need to feel instead?
Right.
And I know
it's a checking in with yourself, right, in that moment.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the repo that we're gonna, like, that Marlon had talked about, and give people that little quick formula.
So it stands for REPOH, and it's really, really, really simple. The R stands for repetition, okay? And so he has a little dance that goes with it. I'm not going to get crazy with it, but it's repetition, okay? Yeah, and the reason being is ordinary things done consistently produce extraordinary results. So it's really important to understand that when you're creating a ritual, that you're going to do this all the time.
Fine. Yep.
So there's the second part, and that's the E, that it's easy. See, oftentimes people are starting to create a ritual. They go, I'm going to work out 5 hours a day. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, killer. Let's shoot for the 20 minutes of intentional action or moving your body for a half an hour each day. I go, that's great repetition. And here's the cool part. When it's easy, it's duplicatable.
Right. And you do it more often.
You do it more often. But now you want the secret sauce? This is really cool, but you can't tell anyone except everyone who's on this session. The P stands for pleasure. We link massive pleasure to the repetition and the ease of it. And so you do it with a smile on your face. You do it like playing your favorite music. You're jamming, you're moving your body, you're engaged. Motion creates emotion. And so now it's like, ooh, I got the repetition. Oh, and this is so easy. Oh my gosh, I'm having such a good time. This is so pleasurable. I'm feeling the pleasure. Cool. Well, if it's repetition and it's easy and it's pleasurable, you might want to use the O, which is often. So you're going to do this all the freaking time. Why? Because in between meetings, break times, you have a couple minutes. Some people do this on their lunch break. They go, I'm going to go take a walk. Wait, what? You didn't take the full hour for your lunch? Didn't need it. 15, 20 minutes to refuel, move my body for a half an hour, come back, wipe the sweat off my brow, get back to doing what I'm doing, little shot of deodorant, please, and it's all good. And here's the result, which is the H. It turns into a habit. This is imperative. A habit is when you have enough emotional charge linked to a spaced repetition that it's easy and maintainable so that you get to actually take ownership of this. It becomes your habits, your rituals. So yes, every habit came from a ritual.
Right.
It came from a ritual.
And I'm going to just, sum it up into something that is easy to understand, Repo. So I started working out at a place called Hot Works. And everyone's like, oh, you must love it. Like you're always there. And I'm like, I hate it. I really hate it. And I do it because I love me. So repetition, my goal is 3 to 4, sometimes 5 or 6 times a week. I choose easy 15-minute HIIT exercises right now. I'm doing it often. Like I do it, like I said, almost every day. If I can get in, I go. I even will get up. If I have something at 8, I'll either go if I have an hour and a half after, or if I can go an hour and a half before, because it's 24 hours. And one of my clients says, Veenu, you should listen to your music. Like it really makes a difference. So I started doing my music. So now it's pleasurable.
Yes.
And it's now created a habit to the point where this morning I was supposed to go and I didn't realize that I had scheduled a call right after my other call. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have time to come home and shower and put deodorant on, Chuck, as you so nicely put. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Okay, I got to figure this out because I got to get there. Even after I got back from California, the next day I made a session at Hot Works. And my husband's like, I can't believe you're going to this morning. Like you just got home last night. And I said, because if I don't start back,
yes,
I won't start again. And because it's the repetition of it. It's the repetition and the repetition. And I'm going to tell you, today I had the best workout on the rowing machine that I've ever had. And here's what I did to make it easy. I made the rules easy.
Yes.
I made the rules that as long as I stay in the sauna for the 15 minutes, I don't even have to finish the exercise. I don't even have to do the exercise. If I stay in that sauna for 15 minutes, I won. And then I was able to do that. So then I made it, what's another easy rule that I could obtain? Because if you can obtain it, you tell your brain you can celebrate it. If I fail at it, I don't want to do it again. So then I'm like, okay, well, when I do my rowing or my, I call it epileptic bike, but it's the elliptical.
Hey, if there's strobe lights going off, it could be.
There might be a little strobe light going on. Or the cycling. Now my new rule is as long as I keep my body moving.
Yes.
I don't have to do it at their pace. I don't have to do it at their intensity. But as long as I keep my body moving, I'm winning. And that making it easy with the pleasure is actually making me like it.
Yes.
Like I went from like, I hate it and I'm just there because I tell my body that you love yourself enough to stay, time actually after today, I'm like, oh, I don't get to go tomorrow. Maybe I'll get up at 5 a.m. because if I get up at 5 a.m., I'll have time to go and then make my appointments in the morning. Like that's how my brain's working now.
Absolutely. It
It,
becomes as addictive as anything else. But here's the ticket, Veenu. So I got to ask, are you making progress?
I am sweating, and that is my progress because
That's
I'm going to tell you, I like everybody, especially us women who are approaching 50, it's I am now health conscious. What do I want my body to look like in the next 10 years?
mhm.
And I know I probably should have thought about this 20, 30 years ago, but honestly, I didn't. And now I'm like, okay, if I love myself, what habits do I need to create in my own self to take care of myself now?
Ooh,
And
this
so,
is
and
this is
so,
important. This
right.
is important.
And so I'm like, okay, if it's quick and it's easy, then I'll do it. And so other people are telling me about hot works, and I hated to sweat though. Like I hated to sweat. And so the reasons why I'm never sustainable is because I'm always looking to lose weight. I'm always looking to lose inches immediately, 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 and it's not happening. And so what I told myself is, what is immediate for instant gratification that I can see that it was worth it? If
Yes.
I sweat, and I Googled, what does sweating mean? Sweating means my body is detoxing and I'm releasing the the yuck out of the internal body so the external body can look and feel great. So I was like, oh my gosh, that is going to be my progress. So every day I need to sweat. So I made it even more easy. I bought one of those exercise cinch belts that wherever you wear it creates even more heat and sweat.
Sure.
It is a sure thing around my belly. I sweat when I work out. And it's interesting because if I do the isolated stuff like yoga, I
Yep.
actually sweat more doing yoga
Yes.
than I do the HIIT exercise. Haven't figured out the science yet, but I don't care because that's the progress. That's how I measure my progress every day is, did I sweat? And the answer is yes.
So weight training is great for muscle resistance and building bone density. Isolation movement, because it's less taxing on your body, actually allows you to increase the number of kilocalories. And so you end up burning more body fat and you're in flow because you're not stressing the body. See, when the body gets stressed, it goes to protect. When you're in flow, it actually allows things to release faster from your body. But I love everything that you just said. And here's one of the beauties of this is that these habits become addictive. They
Mm,
become a part of our lifestyle. One of the things is that you need to schedule it.
yeah.
And that's what you've been doing. In fact, you've been getting so innovative that you're starting to alter your schedule to make time for it. And I go, that is the ultimate when it comes to I get to. And and I'm going to be in fairness, I'm going to say this, it's because you have to. And you have to because for you, this equals progress and progress equals happiness. The measurement we get to pick. So if it's aspiration, glisten till you can't glisten anymore. You know, it's like, and that's the whole thing is that we get to use our measurements. And it's not right or wrong, but this is part of the habit because you can't measure what's not moving. And so this
Right.
is where stasis, and they go, Chuck, but you just said easy. I said, no, yoga is active. You're engaged. You're breathing. There's heart rate. There's actually consciousness. There's all these different things. It's like Tai Chi if you're doing long or short form, if you're doing any kind of activity. I said, for the love of Pete, there's people who will actually just on a kickboard kick in a swimming pool and they go, oh, it's the easiest thing on my body. And they are dropping body fat like nobody's business. They go, I don't get it. It's like, oh, because you're working your core, your back, you're holding on, you're using the largest muscle groups. Now, we don't need to go down the path of kinesiology and biomechanics and kilocalories. But what we can say is it's a habit. It's no different than you taking a 30-30-30 for yourself each day. Out of 24 hours a day, owning 90 minutes for you of self-care. This is not selfish. It's absolutely imperative That means you're going to move your body for 30 minutes a day, however you get to. You're going to feed your mind for 30 minutes a day. Why? Because if you don't tend the weeds to the garden of your mind, junk is going to come in. There's only so much TikTok and being oh, but you just said we're on social media. Yes, select what you're watching. It's kind of like food. If you pick up celery and fresh fruits and vegetables by comparison to a Twinkie, a ho-ho, and a yoo-hoo, I said those things will feed your body in a very different way. They still fall under the category of food-ish, but at some point in time, you get to understand that all of this either, and we talked about this just before we came on, it's either feeding you or feeding on you.
Right.
Right? And then the last one is feed your spirit. For the love of freaking Pete, believe till you achieve, don't fake it till you make it. And when Veenu started this initial workout, I'm not saying you were faking it till you make it, you were engaged till you got to a point where you felt that you had started building some conscious competence around what you were doing.
Right.
And now certain parts of this, you're unconsciously competent about it.
Yeah.
And then things that are new movements that you're right. So this, if you look back over the last couple of weeks, all this will make sense and it'll come together. But to Veenu's point, repo is nothing more than a manifestation of you acknowledging two things: your why, which is who you are and how you need to feel most often, and your needs, which is what do you need or direction you need to go in to feel the way you need to feel most often. It's that simple.
It is. It is. And I'm going to tell you, it's interesting when, when we're talking about this and understanding like the whole concept of how we create a habit. I read the book Atomic Habits because I felt like, it's not rocket science how to create a habit, and habits are repetitious. It's what you do on a daily basis. We have habits like I have a habit of when I get up in the morning, I go to the bathroom and then I brush my teeth nonstop. That's how I've been for like as long as I can remember. That's how I was raised to do. You get up, you use the bathroom, you brush your teeth, and then you start your day. That is a habit. It is a habit that my body is used to doing. It's muscle memory. Like there's times I don't even think about what I'm doing in the morning. Next thing you know, I'm standing in front of the mirror with my toothbrush in my mouth, right? And it's like, it's an unconscious competence. Like you said, it's like, it's what it happens. And so one of the ways that we build habits, how do we build habits? And then we'll talk about how to get rid of bad habits. One of the ways that they talk about in this book, Atomic Habits, is if you already have a habit that you do, like I brush my teeth, right? That's a habit I have. What ritual would I want to add to that moment since I'm already doing it? So I'm adding to a habit I already have. So one of the things I do is like my morning gratitude, or I call it like I have this thing I do my circles every morning where I choose my end results every morning. I do it during the time I'm in the bathroom doing my morning routine. I've just added it because it was something that my coach is like, you need to get, you need to do your circles every day. And I'm like, God, I forget to do them. It's a burden. And I found every excuse why I'm not doing my circles of my choices. And finally, I'm like, well, what does the book say? The book says add something, a new ritual to something I'm already doing and marry it. So that's what I did. Now, every day I do my choices of what I want my life to be, my end result of my life every day. And if I forget to do it, I feel it in my body. Every day when I wake up, the first thing I do is my gratitude. Thank you for allowing me to have another day, another breath in my body. And I go into my list of gratitude and then I get up. These are the things that, so I ask the listeners out there, what habits do you have already in your life?
Yes.
What new habits do you want to adopt? And how could you marry them into your already habits that you have established?
It's a great question. And I would ask furthermore, how do they make you feel?
Yes.
Because if you go, I love it when I have fresh breath. I love when I feel relieved in the morning. I love when I shower and I wash off, whatever may be on me, because water is cleansing. And this is the largest organ you have, which is your skin. And it's like, so there's reasons behind all of this. And on the other side of it too, how do they make you feel? Because at the end of it all, you go, what do you mean, brushing my teeth? I go, well, if it didn't feel good or you didn't enjoy having fresh breath or people around you don't enjoy your fresh breath, then it's like, then why are you brushing your teeth?
Right.
And people go, well, come on, that's just silly. That's good hygiene. I go, that's one reason. How many other reasons? I love my smile. Oh, that's another one. I love fresh breath. I love not being cottonmouth. I love not, burning someone's eyebrows when I speak to them because I had garlic the night before. Whatever the case might be, you can have whatever reasons you want, but at the end of the day, they're yours. And it's like, okay, how does that serve you?
Right.
Because here's the difference. Here's the difference between a good habit and maybe a not so good habit. Oftentimes, when your habit wasn't selected intentionally, you have what we call an inherited habit. And here's the weird part. You go, who did I inherit it from? Probably from yourself. Because what you didn't know, you didn't know. And so you found a way to cope or to create something that you know that when you exercise in this, that when you partake of this, when you use this, when you think like this, when you use this type of language, that it's going to impart a certain feeling, or maybe it dulls the feeling so you don't have to feel any pain anymore, so that you don't have to engage in maybe feeling less than. Because I don't know about you, but my old primary question from many years ago was, why am I not good enough? And then the other one was, then who do I need to be instead? Because I was never happy with myself. So I was like, oh, well, if I'm not good enough, then I must have to be like someone else. And they go, oh, very Spock-like logic. And it's like, not really.
No. It's not rocket science. And that's just it. It's when you're creating a habit, there's a why. Again, what's the why behind it? Why do you need this new habit? Why do you need to let go of an old habit? And here's a question I ask myself, and it's a question I, invite my clients to ask themselves. Is it going to move me towards what I want in my life, or is it going to hold me back from what I want in my life?
Exactly.
And it's not even about the need, because sometimes we don't know what we need, but we definitely can tell what we want. And when you don't know what you want, you know what you don't want. Right?
That's true.
So if that's the truth, when you want to create something new in your life, a new habit, I used to smoke. I smoked for 25 years, and it's so weird. It seems like it's a lifetime ago, and it was like 13 years ago. I haven't smoked for 13 years. And there's so many times I quit and then I went back to it, and I quit and I went back to it. And you said something earlier today about our identity. When I realized that smoking was no longer part of my identity, I identified with being a non-smoker for the first time.
Yes.
I never went back. I never went back to that, and instead I asked myself, when are the times that I wanted a cigarette, and in those moments, what was really going on? And here's the number one reason when I would smoke, or two reasons. The number one was when I needed, like, I was just stressed out. Like I needed an opportunity to just take a break, and it was great to take a smoke break. The second time is when I was bored. If I was on a long drive, or if I was like when I'm talking on the phone forever. Yes, I'm not bored, but I'm not really doing anything. I'm just like walking in circles. So it would be a great time to have a cigarette while I was talking on the phone. So it was replacing those moments. Could I just go outside in the fresh air and take a 5-minute breath break? And like, I know about box breathing, just do 5 minutes of box breathing. So I'm actually taking clean air into my lungs, not the poison from the cigarette, and taking time to release whatever was creating that pressure and that stress in my mind, and taking the breath and refocusing on good thoughts and pleasurable thoughts. When I was bored, at first, when I was talking on the phone, I would just doodle. because it'd be something I would do with my hands, because that's what you're doing. It's a hand to mouth thing. When you're smoking, you're doing something with your hands. So I started to doodle. I doodled over everything for the first 2 years. I'm not gonna lie. Any piece of paper, any receipt, any napkin in the kitchen. Like I just doodle. And it worked. I replaced something that was not taking me towards what I wanted in my life. And I replaced it with something that wasn't going to take my life to a better place or hold it back and eventually could kill me.
So there's an above the line and below the line. And if we were to actually go, when you were driving the car, was your energy above the line or below the line? You're like, going, well, it's kind of like at the line. I go, okay. Then if we go, when you were challenged, when things were going on, were you above the line or below the line? People go, well, it's definitely below the line. And they go, well, what's this line thing you're talking about? It's the acceptance level of your energy. When you're above the line, you have an attraction strategy for bringing other people into your world. This is where prosperity, love, connection, and quite frankly, presence lives. When we're not present, we drop either at the line or below the line. And anytime you're below the line, that which means not present, off, dreaming, la, out there, then you are not running the show. Your unconscious is, and it's going to do whatever it needs to do to make you feel safe.
Would you also say, though, also below the line is when, like what you've talked about before, is the frequency, like where we're feeling.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm referencing is the frequency. So is your frequency high or low? Because at the end of this, it's like, okay, anything that you elect to do brings your frequency up. Anything you get to do because you made that decision automatically engages your unconscious level, raises your frequency. Anything that you drop into, and they're like going, like what? I said, well, brushing your teeth, unless you tie something else to it, like music or movement, or some people will put on white noise, like they have a big screen TV in their bathroom. I don't know why, but they do. And it's like, that's cool, not judging, just say it. And at the end of the day, I go, okay, what do you get from that? And they go, engagement. Because now what they find is they may put on a inspirational video in the morning while they're brushing their teeth. And so for that 5 minutes,
they're feeding their brain.
They're feeding their brain. And that's what we call a twofer, which is awesome. I know people who brush their teeth on a rebounder.
Yeah.
Now, personally, I don't want to jump on their rebounder after they've been brushing their teeth because there's like froth everywhere. But I'm just saying, at some point in time, I go, that's still a twofer.
Well, when I was in my midst of shifting who I was and learning self-worth and self-esteem, I did the mirror exercise. And I would do it when I was brushing my teeth. And I would say things to myself that I am great, I am beautiful, I'm a source to be reckoned with, I'm at the next level of my life. And I'm just like brushing my teeth away while I'm, saying these things to myself in the mirror while I was brushing my teeth. Because it just shifted things for me. It really
did. And kids do this automatically. If you've ever heard your kids singing in the bathtub while taking their bath or in the shower, all the time. And somewhere along the line, adults forget to do this. And so I go, great, then turn on your favorite music when you're in the shower. You want to talk about a pleasurable experience? Getting clean while you're listening to tunes. I mean, you're going to lather up in ways that you never even know you had rhythm to. You're like, okay, this is how we do our head. And it's like, it's cool. But we make fun of stuff, but yet I'm going, being childlike and letting loose and allowing your energy and your freedom to flow.
Well, you think about this, like our friend Joseph McClendon said that his mother, who was diagnosed with cancer, why did she live longer? It was laughter.
Yes. Laugh therapy is what he called it.
Because when we are children, we are innocent. We don't know that we're not supposed to be loud and obnoxious and having fun. We don't know that until the adults come in and say, whoa, inside voice. No, don't do that. And it's so funny you said this, like exact thing. I just told my daughter, I'm like, my TV show's tonight at 8, so please go get your shower in today, right now. Oops, 5 minutes till showtime. Wrap up the singing. Let's go. Because this is when she does her music lessons. Like she literally practices, because she takes singing lessons. She does her practice in the bathroom. And it's funny because I my kids know when the music is on in the bathroom, do not come knock on the door unless it's an emergency, because that's my time. I'm listening to my
Yes.
favorite tunes. I'm taking a shower. I'm lotioning. I'm doing my facial routine. Like, I'm doing everything to my music. So it's so funny. I was like, is Chuck at my house in the morning? Like, does he know what's going on? Because you're just like naming all the stuff that we do here in my house.
We share one brain. She finishes all my sentences, by the way. So just in case you didn't know. And so, no, but this is powerful, Veenu. And again, if we simplify things, because we know what kills execution is complexity. Yes. And so one of the things that is really important with repo is also KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Because, and I'll use that for myself. Keep it simple. I call myself stupid because I'm like, going, I am so riddled with trying to, oh, well, if we add this and we do this, and it's like, you know what? No, sometimes it's great just the way it is. Right. And it doesn't require any other refinement. And people go, oh, then you're holding a low standard. And I'm like going, Earth, Wind, and Fire doesn't need my refinement on it.
Right.
You know, Michael Jackson doesn't need my refinement on him. Bruno's doing fine just on his own. I'm not really worried about it. And it's like, so I can listen to the music that moves me, that makes me feel full.
And it brings the pleasure back into it. And that's really what it is. It's like, so here's another tip to create a habit. Reward yourself. Reward the habit. When you ask yourself, is this taking me towards what I want? Yes, it is. How are you going to celebrate it? How are you going to lock it in? So your brain is like, I want more of this. That dopamine, right? It gets released. I want more of this. I like this feeling of praise and acceptance and fun and energy. You know, again, that's why I brought the music in. And I was just telling my client today, I said, thank you for that tip, you know, for telling me to bring the music in, because it's my music. It's what jazzes me up. And I have different playlists that I listen to. Sometimes I'm in the mood to go back into the 80s a lot. I go back in the 80s. Sometimes I'm like, today I was listening to music and, you know, you and I are anchored by a lot of our Tony Robbins song because we spent so much time in it, and it just like puts you in that state. Today, my best workout was to a playlist that I have of his, and it just brought me into that moment of my physiology and the power that I have within me. And it was just coming out. And so there's the reward. You know, you have to reward yourself for the new habits you bring in. You know?
Hey, listen, there's nothing like dangling a carrot in front of yourself. And so if it's a new pair of Louis Vuittons for you, if it is, you know, if it's a new workout outfit, and you're like going, hey, when I hit this level, I'm actually going to go ahead and get these, you know, different running shoes, or I'm going to buy a new bike, or I'm going, and I go, that's amazing. And then I ask a deeper question, which is, well, if you already had the bike, would you ride more often? And I go, oh, heck yeah. I was like, oh, then why not invest in yourself now?
Right.
See, this is the celebration part where we get to support the get-tos in our dreams. But these are really visions that we're having. Because anytime you tie an emotion to it, some people get triggered by dreams and then they wake up and they're, okay, oh, I don't even know what's happening. In fact, I don't even know what I was dreaming about.
There's no action behind it.
That's right. But a vision is actionable. And this is where, like, what I woke up and feeling empowered, and I knew exactly what I needed. It's like, oh, you had a vision. So it wasn't even you consciously, it was your subconscious that was manifesting and feeding you, because you are moving forward, and that progress equals happiness.
Yes.
Where there's a challenge, and this is a very simple formula to look at, okay? And this actually comes from a dear mentor and friend of ours, Steve Linder. And he talks about, no different than the stock market, you have different cycles, okay? So think of a stock market. So let's just call this A and B over here. And A is your starting point, and B is where you start to experience a challenge. Well, this is what happens. It starts to channel down and it gets to C, and you're not going, this is where change is occurring, and it's not the change that you desire.
Right.
So you hit bottom at D. Now here's where it gets a little freaky. People go, oh, I'm at the bottom. I can only go up from here. So you start to put in progress, some rituals, listen to the language, and you start making some stair steps. You go, oh, I'm doing it consistently, and it's starting to feel good, and I'm making progress. Here's where it gets, here's the pitfall though. This A and B is called the comfort zone. And there's no growth in comfort. Zero, not a zilch. Well, this is where people get it twisted. They go, well, F, man, I'm all the way up to where I was before. And then they start to self-sabotage. And they go back and the F becomes their new A again. And all they're doing is this, flatlining across the entire lifespan. So people go, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. No, time out, Chuck. We hold higher standards. How do I get the G and H? And I go, well, it's by having those rituals turn into habits, because now you have push through and pull through, and it changes your focus. It changes your language. It changes your resonance frequency above the line, where now I'm attracting other people in, and it builds community. So you get to what we call H, which is compelling future. This means you can see so much more. This is the reward system that you were just talking about, Veenu.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, here's A, B, here's F, here's H. It's like, holy smokes. And here's the cool part. H becomes your new A. That's the new standard. And so the cycle repeats, but now it's boom, oh, and we're getting exponential growth. There's one thing that allows us to jump from A to H, and one thing only: identity. When you can so link your compelling future to this identity of self, that you are valued, that you're a loving guided gift from God, that you are, that your maker, energy, the universe, Allah, Buddha, whoever, something greater than you has a plan for you, and that you are where you need to be right now. Doesn't mean you need to be satisfied with it, but you understand that you're growing and you're not broken.
Right.
That drive will catapult you. And you don't even have to drop down into the abyss to go back up. You go, oh, I didn't get the lesson. I go, but didn't you?
Right.
Didn't
There
you?
was a question. Yeah. Can you use a reward system if you are consistent with your habit? Absolutely.
That's what you're talking about.
Your reward system is embedded when you are consistent with that new habit. Absolutely. So I just want to shift, because like we're coming to the end of our show already.
Really?
I know, right? I want to talk about how do we get rid of habits. And here's the first thing is kind of do the exact opposite. Make it hard. Make it hard to do. Make it unpleasurable. Create, like what I did with like that smoking. I said I switched it out for something different. That was, doodling's not going to take me towards my future, but it's definitely not going to kill me like a cigarette is.
I actually had a friend who took their pack of cigarettes, put it in a plastic bag, and then poured ice around it and put it in the freezer. And so every time they wanted a cigarette, they had to defrost the block of ice so that they could actually open up the bag. And I go, well, what made you put in a Ziploc bag? Because I originally did it without the Ziploc bag. And I couldn't even have a cigarette if I want to have a cigarette, because it was just mush when I pulled it out. And I go, that might have been the better strategy. And he goes, in hindsight, yes. He goes, but Chuck, he goes, I got to the point where I was taking a chisel and a hammer and trying to get these freaking cigarettes out of this container, because literally it was a block of ice with a pack, and it wasn't a whole pack of cigarettes. It was like 2 or 3 in a little baggie in the middle, and he could see him, and he goes, do you know what that did to my psyche? And he goes, I finally got to a point, it wasn't worth it.
Right. Because he made it too difficult to get to. There was more pain than the pleasure of having the cigarette. And that's what we're saying is, like what Chuck was saying is, you got the pain and the pleasure are your motivators. And they say we'll do more to stay away from pain and then we will to go to pleasure. And that is true, but the pain of trying to get those cigarettes, it wasn't worth it. It just made it wasn't worth it. So make it so it's not worth it to you anymore. What habit in your life do you need to change today? What habit in your life is taking away from the quality of your life?
What's feeding on you and not fueling you?
Yes.
Because I'm going to share something with you, and that is, when the stress gets high enough, something's going to break. And normally it's you.
Yeah.
And you don't need to get to that point where it causes dis-ease in your body, where it creates a dependency on something that's not serving you, but feeding on you. And people go, well, how do you know if it's fueling you or feeding on you? And I said, when it fuels you, you fill up. When it feeds on you, you pay for it dearly, not just monetarily, in time, in your energy, in your ability to be able to be present.
Right.
And you start making some really silly errors. where you're not in control of your own faculties.
And here's some of the habits that people forget to even think of. Like we think of things like smoking or alcohol, things like that. But here's a habit that we don't think of are the patterns that we're running in our life on how we deal with things each and every day.
Yes.
You know, if we have a habit, I used to be a big yeller. Now I call myself a small yeller because I still yell. So I'm going to own that. My reaction to my children, Chuck, my older boys, when they were younger, it was just yelling. That's how I felt I had to be heard because that's how I was raised with yelling. And I didn't like that. I didn't want to be a yeller, and yet I couldn't stop it, And when I realized it was a pattern, it was a habit that I had created. Again, you said, it's an inherited habit. Who created it? I can blame it on my mom, but the truth is I created it myself because when I yelled, my kids responded and I got the outcome met. And I started to create this, oh, that's how I'm heard. If I yell, they take me seriously if I yell. And so I realized that was a pattern that I needed to shift. If I want my kids to respect me, but how are they learning respect when I'm not respecting them and yelling at them? And so we need to really identify the habits in our life when we're dealing with stress, when we're dealing with a situation, a challenge, because that's normally when this stuff really comes up of who we really are when we're dealing with the challenge, and what is our go-to? What is our go-to to resolve? Is your go-to supporting the situation or is it taking away from the situation? Because one of the things that I noticed, like even with road rage, I used to have road rage. And it was funny because I don't remember where I was. I think I was with our friend Steve Linder at an event where he says, who do you think is hearing them? Do you think the person that you're yelling at is hearing you? Like, it's not. Right. They don't care. They've already cut you off. They're gone. The person in your car's hearing you. They're like, what? I didn't do it. I didn't cut you off. Why are you yelling at me?
Who is this person?
It's like, oh my gosh.
And in reaction, right. And and there's two things that come from that. One is it's better out than in. So we're looking for release. We're looking to get outside of ourselves. Two is that, and this is where it becomes really humbling. And this is why I ask, what does this mean? Because there's another part that you can add on to this. And who does this serve? Feeling this way, who does this serve?
Right.
Is it serving you? Is it serving others? And many people that yell, or as I will say, speak very voicefully, is that they have a yearning desire to be heard.
Yes, absolutely.
And their perception is, it's kind of like when we meet a foreigner and we go, if I just speak louder and slower, they're going to understand all the words coming out of my mouth. And it's like, nope. And so there's this scenario where we have this perception in our head because this really odd logic takes over. I know people and they go, well, I'm just taking time for me and I'm slowing down and I'm not going to be under the influence of anybody else. And I go, well, number one, you're your number one influencer. Number two, if all the chatter is taking it out of your heart space and you're only occupying your head space, I don't know what lessons you're going to learn, because the confusion comes from being here most of the time. And we've heard this term head dead, heart smart. And I know it sounds rudimentary, but I'm going to just remind people, your why is who you are and why you're here. It's that simple. So I love this, Veenu. I mean, this we could definitely go on and on and on and on about.
I think like every topic we talk about, Chuck, we can go on and on and on. We can go on and on about the recipe of spaghetti if you really and I got together and had this conversation, probably.
Absolutely. Without question.
Thank you guys. It's been a pleasure once again. Thank you for joining Chuck and I, and just living now with us because, like we say, yesterday's history and tomorrow's a mystery, and we're here to support you. We learn from each other each and every episode as well. New ideas, fresh ideas. So thank you for tuning in, staying with us. Please check out our show on www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.